Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Brita Wallace with Wallace Family Ministry. I'm a parent and family educator, and we are on a journey of the Love Dare for Parents, which has been such an amazing journey. We're on day 19 out of 40, so we're almost halfway there, guys, which is super exciting and encouraging. I don't know about for you, but for me especially. So we're just going to hop right into our study and start. So day 19 is love protects. So the Lord will protect you from all evil. He will keep your soul. Psalm 121:7. So let's face it, the world is getting worse, not better. There aren't too many neighborhoods anymore where kids can safely wander around all afternoon, right? Until the street lights come on, or until your mom, until your mom blinks the porch lights on for supper. Those times seem like they were so long ago. And I mean, that's not a world that my kids live in. I don't know about yours, but that's not a world my kids live in. My child right now, actually, as we speak, wants me to allow him to go across the street, which is just across the street, like literally can throw a rock there. We live in a horseshoe, and the road is, it's wide enough for two cars, but it's pretty narrow, and it's houses are close by together, so it's not most of these houses are vacation homes. It's not like next door is a quarter mile away or even a few blocks. Like, it's literally, I can see their house. However, I do not know those people at all. And it's not like they're just neighbors we haven't met. They're renters, so they literally will be here for a few days and then gone. And I'm very reluctant. There's a lot of kids over there. I'm like, they can come play over here, which we have a lot to play with over here. They can come play over here, but I'm not sure that I want you over there. I don't know those people, right? So those days are done and over with as far as I'm concerned. In my life, in my generation, I was allowed to go. I don't know that my parents would let me go play with strangers, but we were allowed to be in the boundaries of our apartment complex in the village that we lived in. And it was also age appropriately too. He's 4, and I don't know those people. So if they were neighbors, it would be different. There's another neighbor in our neighborhood, and I don't love him to go over there. They have big dogs, and he's not watched very well over there. So I don't know what's going on, and I'm just like, they can come over here, right? So there's just certain scenarios where, and then there's other neighbors, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, you can go over there. Where we just don't allow our kids to do certain things that we were allowed to do, or even generations before, where we didn't know, as a society, we didn't really know where our kids were until it was dark, or until it was starting to get dark outside. So those days are really times of the past. And now our kids grow up in the age of technology. And actually, I want to share this with you because when I was earning my early childhood degree, we had to take a class called Young Children in Technology. This wasn't an option. This was a requirement to earn this degree, because this is the world that our kids live in. So yes, we have to give our kids boundaries with that and stuff, but the fact of the matter is, and good boundaries, because it's even scarier that people have so much more access to our kids. But we can't shelter them from this either, because this is literally the world they live in. It's stuff that they have to use at school in often cases, and it's becoming more and more popular and prevalent. They're going to have to know how to use the computer and technology as they grow up and get into a job, and figure out what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So it's something we need to teach them how to use age appropriately, and really with boundaries, with really wise and I don't want to say strict, but strong boundaries. And you have to decide what those are for you in your home, right? But we have to protect our kids, especially from all the access that people have to our children today, which is kind of scary, but our God is bigger. That's the good news, right? So technology, it exposes our kids also to a lot of evil that goes on in the world. And that's scary too. That's almost just as scary as people having access to our children. So no matter how many people call you overbearing for insisting or knowing where everybody is and who they're with, your job is not to please them, right? Your job is to parent, and you have to do that how you feel is best for you, with the boundaries that you are comfortable with. So they are saying, the authors, that this means that we need to be a protector to our kids, okay? So it's not our job to please everybody else and to allow them to tell us how we should parent our kids. Our job is to parent our children well and to be their protector. When our parents were growing up, they grew up in a different time. When we were growing up, we grew up in a different time. When our kids have kids, their kids are going to grow up in a different time, and we have to parent appropriately, okay? So Scripture shows the mother of Moses protecting her young son from the dangerous threat against his life and safety. And the thing about that is she actually put him in a basket and gave him up, right? So that she could protect him. And that is like unfathomable as a mom, like giving my children up to protect him, but we would all do it, right? You think about, like, if I had to do something to protect my child, I would do anything to protect him. If it meant saving his life, I would even part from him, right? And that's a crazy thought, but it's one that is true. We do anything we can to protect our children. It shows Joseph the carpenter transferring Jesus twice to new living conditions, protecting the young Messiah from the murderous intentions of King Herod, right? It also reveals Solomon warning his son against foolish friends, okay? Bad business deals and loose women. The psalmist tells us that the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and they rescue them, right? So how glad are you that God is attentive to where you are, that he invites you to take refuge in him, okay? Why should your kids not enjoy a similar comfort of knowing that your love deeply cares about their well-being? And that is not always what they want to hear. They're annoyed with our protection sometimes, okay? I was just arguing with my child about I don't want to say arguing, but he was trying to argue with me about not going across the street. So I'm like, listen, this is the deal. You're not going over there. And I made him stay in the house when he started arguing with me. I'm not going to argue with you about this. You're not going over there. We don't know those people. He was like, Daddy. I'm like, Jack. And I let his dad answer him. He said the same exact thing. And then I said, this is the thing. I asked him if he knew where his boundaries were. And then he told me he was going to go across the street, because sometimes we have a problem with him leaving the yard. So he wanted to go outside. There's a lot of windows. I was watching, but I was explaining to him he needed to stay within his boundaries, and if he knew where they were. And he then started trying to argue with me about going across the street. And then I made him stay inside for a bit, because I was like, I'm not going to have this argument with you. This is the answer. And now you're staying inside, because I know my child, and I knew that if I allowed him to go outside as he was really pushing to go to the neighbor's house, he would have attempted to go to the neighbor's house. So I made him stay inside for a bit. And then when he calmed down a bit and told me what his boundaries were and how he was going to stay within the yard, it took about 10 or 15 minutes. I did let him go outside, and he did stay within his boundaries, and the neighbors came over to our house, which is totally fine. We played outside. Their parents are sitting out there watching them in the yard. They can see everything, so that's totally cool, right? So love always protects. As parents, we're always going to protect our kids. That is the theme, right? We keep talking about it, but it's the theme. So it leads us to protect not just them physically. We need to protect their minds, though, too. Do you ever think about that? How you have to protect your child's mind? You have to protect their heart. You need to protect their purity, not just them physically, not just their physical bodies. Instead of exposing them to situations that are way over their heads, love wisely keeps moral confusion and shock values to a minimum, okay? So I want you to write that down. Instead of exposing our children to situations that are way over their heads, love wisely keeps moral confusion and shock values to a minimum. Instead of leaving them to their own immaturity and pure persuasion, love trains them to put on their seatbelts early. And it establishes moral guardrails to handle life's unexpected turns, okay? That's another thing that I want you to write down. Instead of leaving them with their own immaturity and pure persuasion, love trains them to put on their seatbelts early, and it establishes moral guardrails to handle life's unexpected turns. It also keeps those boundaries in place until our kids are ready to handle greater liberties and responsibilities, okay? Love watches out. It has our children's back. It can say no, even in the face of outrage, okay? And it is willing to be the bad guy in order to be a good parent. That's the next thing I want you to write down. Love is willing to be the bad guy in order to be a good parent, okay? Not only for you to protect your kids from getting into trouble, you're protecting their long-term freedom and opportunities. The same love that doesn't turn them loose to wander the city on Friday night is also helping to keep their testimony and reputation clean, okay? So the same love that keeps the computer in a central room is also offering a life more free from endless distractions or unbridled addictions, okay? We don't want our children to struggle with this. We can absolutely count on culture to be continually pushing down the age range at which they think our kids are ready to handle depravity, gruesome violence, sexual knowledge, foul language, full online access. Right? But remember, your kids belong to you. They belong to you and they belong to God. They belong to you on this earth, but really, truly, they belong to God, right? God has given you, blessed you with your children to take care of them and to raise them up in the way that they should go to honor Him, right? And it's not your job to please anybody in the world. It's not your job to please anybody else who has not been assigned the privilege of passing on a stronger family heritage. The Bible reminds us that we have been commissioned by God to keep watch over our children's souls and that we will give an account to Him one day for this, okay? Of how we handled this responsibility, all right? So our kids grow up fast enough. We don't want to put them in situations where they have an opportunity to grow up even faster. There were things that happened in my life that I feel like, and for a long time, a part of like why I was so bitter and angry and hurt was because some things in my life just really stole my childhood away. And that wasn't anybody's fault or, anything. It's just how life had happened and how my life happened. And now I'm using it for such a greater purpose. So it was meant to happen in my life. This was meant to be my life. And I didn't handle it well. I stuffed emotions and I had to grow up quicker than I should have, than any kid should have, right? So we don't want to give our children too much responsibility or privileges that are way above them at a young age because we want them to be kids as long as possible, okay? So we want more time to be able to win their hearts and mold their maturity. We don't want to just let them do whatever we want. They want. We don't want them, to be. We don't want to be permissive parents with our children. Protectiveness is not merely restriction, okay? And I want you to get that and write that down. It's not just avoiding the negative and letting nothing come along to fill the place, okay? It's overcoming the tide of evil with a tidal wave of good, Romans 12:21. It's surrounding them with good books, with great music, and with godly friends. It's helping them learn the difference between the holy and the profane, to discern between the unclean and the clean. Ezekiel 44:23. It's pressing pause on the remote and talking openly about what was right or wrong about the last movie scene, okay? By helping them learn to discern and by strengthening their resistance skills, you will equip them with the portable protection they'll need whenever they leave your watch, okay? They'll make the right decision even when you're not looking, all right? So you are in charge in your home, right? You are the coach who determines the drills and prepares them for battle. And you must determine the balance of when to press down and surround and when to lighten up and let them learn, okay? There's a balance there, and it's a tough one to figure out as parents. In order to gear them up today to win tomorrow, consider these 3 key attributes you should pray for and develop in your children. All right? We want them to know a moral discernment of right and wrong. Hebrews 5:14. An appetite for good and a hatred for evil. Romans 12:9. A courageous willingness to stand alone under pressure. Daniel 1:8-16. So we want to make sure that we are praying for these things and we are teaching these things, okay? Because it's not enough for us to just pray. We need to be strategic with how our children are going to learn these things in the first place. So your love will not only help keep your children from harm, it will build them in the confidence and spiritual backbone for living with integrity and leading others well. What a gift we could give to our children if we taught them how to do that, right? So our dare today is talk with your spouse about setting the appropriate boundaries for your children regarding access to the internet, television, movies, and phone use. Prayerfully, draw up guidelines for what kind of activities are allowable with their friends, right? Before you present your decisions to them, pray for discernment and for the Lord to work in both you and your children's hearts, okay? So we want to make sure that we are doing that. We want to make sure that we are praying those things and really setting those boundaries and talking with our spouse and seeing where we need to create those boundaries and what they are, and then discussing them with our children when the time is appropriate. So I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in today. I was just looking at my book here. Distracted a little. But I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure that you do, especially because I'm going to have more teachings coming up that come from certain concepts with Walls Family Ministry. Maybe one week we'll talk about boundaries, one week we'll talk about connection, one week we'll talk about life skills and characteristics, so you don't want to miss it. Discipline and all sorts of things. There's all sorts of topics to talk about on how to make families thrive and go accordingly to God's purpose, and just really being able to connect together and to grow together in unity, as opposed to having this chaotic upbringing for our kids. So many people talk about that, and it doesn't have to be that way. Let me teach you how. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, like my channel, and share me with your friends. I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon or evening or morning or whatever it is, and I will see you later.